They didn't warn you before they left. They vanished like smoke from a battlefield. You didn't even know you were fighting it. One day, you were surrounded by laughter, by promises dressed as loyalty, by eyes that pretended to see you. The next, silence. Cold, calculated, surgical silence. That's how betrayal works, not with chaos, but with calm. It's not the knife that hurts, it's the quiet before it. The way they looked at you, as if you'd already been buried, as if you were the ghost haunting a story that no longer needed you. You replay the moment, the tone of their voice, the way their words felt too polished, too final. You remember thinking maybe you misunderstood, maybe it was your fault. That's the cruel genius of betrayal. It makes you apologize for your own execution. You kept trying to fix it, to reason to stay. But you can't reason with people who have already decided you're disposable. You can't save a house that's already set itself on fire. Then came the silence. Not peace, silence. The kind that echoes, stretches, fills every room like fog. You stared at your phone, waiting for a message that would never come. You convinced yourself they'd regret it. They didn't. They slept peacefully while your mind tore itself apart. That's when the truth started whispering they weren't chasing you. They were escorting you out of their illusion. You had become too real for their comfort, too aware, too awake. You wanted to scream. You wanted them to see what they'd done. But deep down, you knew they wouldn't care. The world doesn't clap for the wounded, it forgets them. You start realizing this betrayal wasn't chaos, it was order. The natural correction of a universe removing what weakens you. Pain isn't random, it's precise, like a blade forged by something ancient, something that knows what must be cut for you to evolve. You remember the laughter that once filled the air. It feels foreign now, like an artifact from another life. You used to chase approval like oxygen. Now, every breath without it burns, but it's cleaner. You can feel your skin hardening, your vision sharpening. The betrayal didn't destroy you, it peeled you, stripped the softness, removed the illusion that anyone would ever save you. And that's terrifying, because freedom always starts as loneliness. You begin to notice things you ignored before, the fake concern, the selective kindness, the way people love you when you're weak but vanish when you start to rise. They don't hate you, they fear what your awakening exposes in them. You were a mirror, and they broke it. But shards reflect more light than glass ever could. The betrayal becomes sacred. You stop seeing it as punishment and start treating it as initiation. Every scar a scripture, every sleepless night a sermon. You start walking differently, slower, colder, certain. Not because you've healed, but because you've accepted the wound as permanent architecture. Pain becomes your cathedral, and in that cathedral you're both the sinner and the priest. They thought they buried you in silence, but silence is where your pulse learned to roar. They thought they humiliated you, but humiliation is just transformation in disguise, a crucifixion before resurrection. You're not chasing revenge, you're becoming it, quietly, methodically, without announcement, because the loudest revenge isn't destruction, it's evolution. And when they look over their shoulders, sensing something behind them, they'll realize it's not guilt, it's you. Not the version they broke, but the one their betrayal built. And they'll finally understand they were never stalking you. They were just escorting you out of the small, fragile nightmare they called peace, and into the empire you were always meant to rule. They took everything with them, the laughter, the noise, the illusion that you were loved because you were useful. When the silence came, it wasn't gentle, it was surgical. Every echo of your name faded like smoke in a room that had just been evacuated. You stood in the wreckage of connection, realizing the truth no one says out loud. You were never one of them. You were an inconvenience that started asking the wrong question. So they didn't just leave. They discarded you to preserve their peace. And when they turned away, it wasn't anger you felt, it was clarity. Now the world is quiet, too quiet. Time slows down, and even your breathing sounds intrusive. You scroll through old messages, rereading words that once felt alive, now embalmed in their own hypocrisy. You replay every conversation, every glance that seemed real, and you begin to see it, the pattern, the performance, the choreography of betrayal. They weren't friends. They were mirrors, reflecting only what they wanted you to see, until you stopped playing the part. And when you did, they shattered. You try to fight it at first, clawing at what's already dead. You send one more message. You wait one more day. You keep their names in your mouth like ghosts you can't exorcise. but silence answers back. Days blend into nights, and the loneliness becomes a living thing. It feeds on you, then grows quiet, then feeds again. You start wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe you were too much, too intense, too honest, too unwilling to stay asleep. There's no one to tell you otherwise. The walls become your witnesses. The air feels heavy, like even God stopped checking in. You start to decay in slow motion. Mind first, then body. Sleep doesn't help. Music feels wrong. Food turns to dust. The mirror becomes an enemy. The eyes staring back don't look like yours anymore. They're darker, colder, waiting. And that's when you realize this is the part no one survives unless they let the old self die. In the abyss, time bends. Hours stretch like punishment. You walk through the ruins of your own life, stepping over memories like bones. Every mistake mocks you. Every regret whispers, "You should have known." But buried somewhere inside that noise, something shifts. It's faint, almost unnoticeable. The pulse of something primitive, something ancient. It doesn't cry. It calculates, it watches. You stop begging the universe for fairness. You stop asking people to come back. You start listening to the rhythm beneath your pain. It's not grief anymore, it's training. Every second in this darkness is sharpening you, stripping away illusion, mercy, and dependence. You begin to see betrayal for what it really is, a brutal invitation to become untouchable. Nights pass, your thoughts change tone. The same silence that once suffocated you now becomes a weapon. You start hearing truth in the quiet, truth about who you were, who they were, and what you must become. Pain stops being emotional. It becomes mechanical, almost strategic. You endure not because you believe it'll get better, but because quitting feels like a language you've forgotten how to speak. They think they erased you. They think you're gone, but you're not gone. You're submerged, waiting. Every scar is rewriting your code, every disappointment forging precision where there was once hope. You start to understand what the darkness was teaching all along. Power doesn't come from being seen, it comes from surviving unseen. And as the world sleeps, you stay awake, not as a victim, but as a student of silence. The abyss no longer frightens, it listens when you breathe, because now it knows what you know. They didn't banish you, they freed you. They just didn't realize the monster they buried would learn how to see in the dark. You stand in front of the mirror, and for the first time, you don't see a victim. You see the architect of your own destruction. The reflection doesn't blink. It just stares back, unflinching, exposing every lie you've told yourself to survive. You remember how you used to beg for explanations, how you built temples around people who never prayed for you. You thought loyalty would save you. It didn't. It only chained you to ghosts. Now in this silence you see the truth. No one is coming. No rescue, no apology, no redemption arc. Just you, stripped of every illusion you once mistook for love. You trace the outline of your face, wondering how many times you smiled just to avoid breaking down. That smile became a mask, didn't it? A mask you wore so well that even you forgot what your real face looked like. The mirror doesn't lie. It shows the cracks in your armor, the exhaustion in your eyes, the quiet fury beneath your calm. You realize that the people who broke you didn't win. They revealed you. They forced you to meet the part of yourself that doesn't negotiate with pain anymore. The part that doesn't care to be understood, only respected. You think about them, the ones who called you too much, the ones who said you changed. They were right, you did change. You evolved into someone they can't recognize, because your silence became louder than their noise. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped auditioning for belonging. You stopped bleeding for validation. The weak version of you, the one that sought permission to exist, died quietly, buried beneath every sleepless night you endured. What stands in front of the mirror now isn't gentle. It's reborn in chaos, baptized in solitude, and sharpened by betrayal. The mirror becomes a battlefield. On one side, the old you, the pleaser, the dreamer, the believer in second chances. On the other, the observer, the strategist, the survivor. The old you wanted peace. The new you wants control. The old you wanted love. The new you wants truth, even if it cuts. That's the price of evolution. You trade comfort for clarity, illusions for instincts. You learn that not everyone deserves your empathy, and not every connection deserves resurrection. Some people weren't your lesson, they were your test. And now you've passed it. You take a deep breath, not to calm down, but to remember who's still standing. The reflection doesn't flinch anymore. The eyes staring back are colder, steadier, unbothered. This is the version of you that doesn't text first, doesn't chase closure, doesn't seek approval. This is the version forged in silence, tempered by rejection, refined by the slow burn of discipline. You finally understand power doesn't come from being loved. It comes from being unshakable when you're hated. The mirror no longer feels like glass. It feels like truth. Every scar, every sleepless night, every betrayal becomes a mark of authority. You don't need their forgiveness. You don't even need their memory. You've become something they can't define because you no longer fit inside the story they wrote for you. You outgrew their world the moment you stopped begging to be part of it. And now, standing there under the dim light, you realize this is not a comeback, it's an awakening. You lean closer, whispering to your reflection like a secret oath only you can hear. No one is coming, you say. And that's my gift. The words hang heavy, like steel against silence, because deep down you understand what they meant for isolation became your initiation. What they called your downfall became your discipline. And now, every breath you take is proof that you no longer exist to be saved. You exist to be feared. You stopped waiting for them to understand you. That was the last mercy you gave the world. The nights grew quieter but heavier. You traded noise for focus, comfort for purpose. Every morning you woke up not inspired but haunted by what you refused to become again. You used to beg the world to see you. Now you train for the day it no longer matters who's watching. The pain that once drowned you became the iron bar you pull against. Every repetition of effort bends the weakness that lived in your bones. No applause, no witnesses, just the sound of your own breath cutting through the silence like a blade. You learned that survival isn't poetic. It's repetition, it's routine. It's the refusal to stop when everything inside you screams for mercy. You used to chase feelings. Now you chase control. You eat in silence, move in silence, build in silence. You let the world call it obsession because they have no word for hunger this pure. You train your body until it obeys, your mind until it submits, and your heart until it forgets softness. You start to resemble the thing you once feared, someone who doesn't break, even when it would be easier. Every scar has become scripture, every failure a ritual. You start counting pain like currency because in this world, suffering is the only investment that compounds. The nights where you almost gave up taught you more than every false friend combined. You stopped praying for rescue and started building one with your bare hands. The mirror no longer shows a victim. It shows an architect of endurance, a creature born from silence and sharpened by doubt. The grind doesn't reward you. It reshapes you. It takes your softness and forges it into discipline. It takes your hesitation and melts it into precision. You don't run from exhaustion anymore, you invite it in. You sit with it like an old enemy turned ally. You stop needing motivation when you realize nobody is coming to save you. Every step forward is a war crime against your old self, and you commit it daily. They called you cold, they were right, but they forgot cold metal cuts cleaner than warm flesh. You operate like machinery now, methodical, merciless. You no longer need their validation, only friction, pressure. Resistance, that's your new language. You've turned routine into rebellion, stillness into strategy. You no longer chase peace because peace is for the untested. You've seen what peace costs, and you've decided you're too expensive. You build when no one claps. You rise when no one believes. You bleed where no one looks. You become your own myth, your own punishment, your own God. The world sleeps while you stack your pain into pillars. Every small improvement is another stone in the monument of your rebirth. They'll call it sudden when you arrive, but you'll know. It wasn't sudden. It was scars stacked in silence, nights sacrificed to purpose. You used to fear breaking down. Now you tear yourself apart on purpose to see what still holds. You've learned that strength isn't built from what survives. It's built from what refuses to die. The grind is lonely, but loneliness is a forge. You entered it human. You're leaving it something else, something dangerous, something inevitable. And when they finally look up and see what you've become, they'll whisper that you changed. But deep down, they'll know the truth. You didn't change. You evolved. And evolution doesn't ask for permission. They thought you'd stay broken. They mistook your silence for surrender. But while they laughed in the light, you rebuilt yourself in the dark. They had the crowd, the comfort, the noise. You had the wound, and the wound taught you things applause never could. You learned how to breathe under pressure, how to bleed without witnesses, how to sharpen your mind while the world forgot your name. You became what every enemy fears, the one who learns faster in pain than they do in pleasure. They thought you'd beg for closure. You chose evolution instead. The fire came quietly at first, small sparks flickering in the ruins of who you were. But you fed it with every rejection, every sleepless night, every unanswered message that carved your chest hollow. And slowly the fire grew. It wasn't passion, it was precision. You stopped wanting to be understood. You wanted to be undeniable. They were chasing validation. You were studying silence. You realized that while they were busy performing strength, you were becoming it. Now when you move, it's deliberate. When you speak, people listen, not because you shout, but because every word carries the weight of someone who's been buried alive and clawed back up. You learn that revenge is cheap, power is permanent. So you stopped chasing faces and started mastering time. You built habits that no applause could break. You built a body that doesn't flinch. You built a mind that doesn't beg. Every repetition in the dark was a secret prayer to your future self, and he heard you. They thought you'd forgotten, but you remember every whisper, every smirk, every door that closed just before you reached it. You remember not to hate them, but to never be them. That's the difference now. Your pain became discipline, their comfort became decay. They traded truth for validation. You traded comfort for power. You became something they can't label, can't measure, can't destroy, because they didn't build it. The storm that used to break you now bows when you walk through. You don't crave peace anymore. You create it. You don't need to be liked. You need to be legendary. Your silence has become sacred. Your restraint lethal. They thought distance meant defeat, but it was strategy. They thought your absence was weakness, but it was transformation. The fire burned everything unnecessary, excuses, attachments, approval. What's left is elemental, raw focus, steel intention, and a calm that unnerves the proud. Now you walk past the ghosts of who you were, soft, apologetic, afraid to take up space. You look them in the eye, not with hatred, but with gratitude. Because without their fear, your courage wouldn't exist. Without their betrayal, your clarity would have never been born. You learned that sometimes the only way to purify gold is to let it burn. And so you did. Every scar on your body became scripture. Every loss became prophecy. Every lonely night was an initiation into something far greater than survival, sovereignty. They'll say you changed. They'll be right. But not in the way they think. You didn't become cold. You became controlled. You didn't stop caring. You just stopped bleeding for those who never asked how deep the cuts went. You turned pain into pattern, rage into rhythm. You didn't rise from the ashes, you learned to breathe in them. And now when they speak your name, it won't be nostalgia, it'll be warning, because they finally see it. The fire they started didn't die out. It learned your name, and it never went out again. They don't recognize you anymore. The face is the same, but the energy isn't. You walk past them, and something in their chest tighten, not because they miss you, but because they remember what they did to you. They sense it before you speak. That silence around you isn't peace, it's power contained. You've stopped announcing your return. You just show up. You don't seek revenge. You became it. Every scar on your soul has turned into armor, every betrayal into data. They taught you the rules when they broke you, and now you play the game like you wrote it. There was a time you begged to be understood. Now, you speak a language made of actions, efficiency, and indifference. You used to flinch at their names. Now you hear them whisper yours in rooms you'll never enter again. You don't chase recognition anymore. You move through the world like a ghost with unfinished business, but your business isn't revenge. It's dominance through silence, the kind that doesn't scream, the kind that rearranges fates quietly. When they see your progress, they'll say it was luck, because calling it discipline would mean admitting they quit too early. They'll tell stories about how they knew you'd make it, trying to rewrite the past, where they left you bleeding. But the truth, they didn't believe in you. They just underestimated the consequences of walking away from someone who was still learning how to burn. You learned patience from pain, precision from humiliation. You learned how to bleed without dying. Now every movement you make carries calculation, not emotion. You stopped reacting. You started orchestrating. You build empires from silence and tear illusions apart with a glance. The same people who once pitied you now monitor your steps like analysts of their own regret. They scroll through your success like autopsies of their decisions. You don't post quotes. You are the quote. You became the warning they ignore at their own risk. You understand now. Power doesn't rise in noise. It rises in absence. When you vanished, they assumed defeat. What they didn't know was that you were incubating. You were constructing a version of yourself they could no longer access, understand, or destroy. The storm they caused didn't drown you. It baptized you. And when you walked out of it, the world didn't applaud. It trembled. You used to dream of proving them wrong. Now you've outgrown the need for witnesses. You realize revenge is loud only when it's insecure. The real kind is quiet. It's living so far above them that they can't even insult you without sounding nostalgic. They'll study your silence, call it arrogant, label your focus as obsession. But you won't hear them. You've evolved into something unexplainable, a presence they can feel but never reach. And when your path crosses theirs, there's no confrontation, just that split second of eye contact where their chest tighten and they finally understand they were never chasing you. They were escorting you out of their comfort, out of their delusion, out of the small world that couldn't contain what you were becoming. They'll keep pretending they don't care, but every victory of yours haunts them in quiet moments. Every time they see someone rising from the ashes, they'll think of you, because they remember the night they left you for dead, and how the silence after wasn't your funeral, it was your formation. They don't talk about the moment after the fire, the silence that follows once every scream, every insult, every goodbye has burned itself out. You stand there surrounded by ash and ghosts and realize the world has gone quiet, not because it respects you, but because it fears what you've become. You don't seek revenge anymore. You don't even care for victory. You've transcended both. You became the storm they thought they survived. Before, you begged for understanding. You wanted them to see your pain, to justify your worth through their acknowledgement. But now you see it clearly. Validation is a leash, and you've cut it. You walk differently now. Not faster, not louder, just steadier. The kind of steady that unnerves people who still depend on noise to feel alive. They whisper your name like a warning. You used to want them to clap. Now, you prefer they stay silent. You've learned the art of vanishing in plain sight. Power isn't in presence, it's in control. You sit across from people who once pitied you, and you don't need to remind them of your scars. They can feel them. You've stopped explaining yourself. You let your stillness speak, because silence, in the right hands, is sharper than any weapon. It doesn't beg, it doesn't announce, it simply waits. The old you died quietly, without ceremony, no one noticed. That's the beauty of evolution. It rarely asks for permission. Every betrayal that broke you is just an invitation to sharpen your edge. You don't wear your pain anymore. You forged it into armor. The crown on your head isn't gold. It's made of the moments you survived when no one believed you would. You used to chase meaning in people. Now you extract it from solitude. The solitude that once suffocated you has become your kingdom. You learn to thrive in the spaces where others go insane. They call it loneliness. You call it clarity. Every quiet hour you spent rebuilding turned into an empire no one saw coming. You didn't win by shouting louder. You won by not needing to. When you walk into a room now, you don't demand respect. You radiate it. The ones who betrayed you look away, not because of guilt, but because you've become a mirror they can't stand to face. You reflect what they could have been if they hadn't chosen comfort over courage. You embody every consequence they ran from. They tried to bury you under their insecurities. You let them because soil is where roots grow. The silence isn't peace, it's control. It's the space between thought and action where real power hides. You no longer crave chaos because you've mastered it. You can see through the games, the masks, the fragile egos. And that scares them because you've become unreadable. You've outgrown the theater of emotions that once owned you. Now you're the audience watching it burn. They think you've gone cold, but that's not it. You've gone precise. You no longer react, you respond. Every word, every glance, every step is calculated. You understand that true power doesn't perform, it observes. You don't need revenge because their own patterns are punishment enough. The world folds for those who stop chasing and start creating gravity. They thought your silence meant surrender. but it was metamorphosis. You were retreating into the shadows to learn how to command them. And now, when they speak your name, it trembles between admiration and fear. You've become the reminder that not every story ends in noise. Some end in presence. The kind that doesn't ask to be seen because it already owns the room.